Hey guys, and welcome to my next rotation guide. This time we're going to take a look at the Condi Mechanist. Specifically, we're going to look at one out of the three variants, which is the one with double pistol and the J-Drive Grandmaster trait, meaning the build with all the signets. All three builds are relatively close to each other, so I'm just going with the one that I think feels best to play. It's the most fluent rotation in my opinion, and it's a very easy one as well. Even though this class has a very simple rotation, we're still going to take some time to look at basics of the class and the lead specialization in particular. First of all, you will see that I have my mech with me. He just follows me around. And then the F skills, where usually the tool belt skills would be on other engineer specializations, are replaced with mech skills. So for example, if I use my F1 here, rolling smash, you will see that the mech does the according skill. These F skills depend on the traits that you select in the Mechanist trait line. So for example, if I take the bottom one here, you will see that my F1 skill changed to Spark Revolver instead. If I change my second skill, you will see that the F2 changes, and if I change the last trait, you will see that the last F3 skill changes. On top of that, these traits also have other interactions, which I'm going to show later on a bit. Next up, as a Mechanist, we also gain a new set of utility skills as always. This time it is signets. Same as signets from other classes, they have a passive and an active effect. However, in this particular build with the J-Drive, you will see the last line of this trait says signet skills gain improved passive effects and continue to grant their passive bonuses while recharging. So this means we don't just get a better passive bonus, but this also means you can look at my bar right here. I have Rectifier Signet, heal for every second. If I activate it now, you will see I still have it until I gain it back. That's because of the J-Drive skill. So we can use signets freely with these builds and still keep our passives. Quickly looking over the signets, the one I showed you first here is the Rectifier Signet. It heals yourself and your mech every second, and then the active heals yourself and the mech as well. This can be kind of nice in certain fights where your mech goes down a bit, or if you're in a solo scenario where you let your mech tank a bit, you will just passively heal him all the time while having the signet, and you can use the active to heal him more. However, this is pretty much a flexible spot because Engineer has so many great healing skills. For example, you will still want to use AED probably on an encounter like Cardinal Sabir in Wing 7 where you can cheese a mechanic through AED. Next up, we have the Superconducting Signet. The passive is pretty straightforward. As always, it increases the condition damage we deal, and the active creates a damaging field that implies conditions. Now, if our mech is active, then the field is going to be around our mech instead. So I can show you, if I use my Signet, there's this damaging field around the mech. And of course, since we are running with the J-Drive skill here, we don't have to choose between the passive and active. We just keep the passive while using the active as well. Next up, we have the Shift Signet, and this signet does quite a lot of things. For example, on the passive, it has two effects. It increases our movement speed, which is the lesser part, and then the boons you gain are copied to your mech. So this obviously doesn't work in the training area with the console buffs. However, in a real raid, this means if you actually have the signet on your bar, your mech will have basically the same boons that you have, which means he will do quite a lot more damage than here on the Golem. On the benchmarks, this is simulated by having another person specifically give boons to the mech, and you can see that the damage difference between having boons on your mech and not having boons on your mech alone is around 4k. So just the passive effect of this Shift Signet in a real fight is mostly going to give us around 4k extra DPS. The active of the Signet means that we and our mech shadow step to the target location, and then we also remove conditions, and it's a stun break. So I can quickly show you the shadow step, I can target it somewhere, and then the mech comes with me. This can be quite useful in certain situations where your mech maybe doesn't follow you, where he gets stuck somewhere, like for example in Fractal CMs, if you play this at Scorevolt and he might get stuck on an island because you took a White Mantle portal back to the center, then you can use your Shift Signet to get yourself and the mech back. And since we're playing with the J-Drive variant, we do not give up the passive of the Shift Signet for this, which is really important because, like I said, the Shift Signet passive alone just gives our mech massive boons, which is around 4k DPS gain. And then lastly, we have the overclock signet, the elite signet. The passive just reduces the recharge of other signets, and then the active has two different effects. So either if our mech is already active, we can use it, and then you will see he shoots out this laser beam. Or the other idea about this is if our mech is currently stowed away and we use the overclock signet, we can resummon him. So if you know that your mech is about to die in a certain fight, you can save your overclock signet, and then once he is dead, you can summon him back. And then lastly, as a Mechanist, we also gain a new weapon. In this case, it's the main hand mace. However, we're not going to be using it in this specific variant right now that I'm going to show you. There is, however, a variant that uses the mace main hand with the same trait setup, including J drive, and it just auto attacks on mace a bunch more than using grenade auto attacks like we are going to do. It offers slightly lower golem DPS, but it has more confusion stacks by quite a bit. So it's going to pull ahead slightly on some fights, and then if you are on a confusion heavy fight like Soul of Sorrow and Twin Largos, it's going to probably pull ahead by quite a bit more. However, in general, you can still play this build I'm going to show you with the double pistol on every fight you want, as long as Condi works well there. So for example, on a Keep Construct or Conjured Amalgamate, I would still recommend playing Power instead. But other than that, there's not really any fight where this build is like super bad. So let's quickly have a look at some important traits before we get started with the rotation. First of all, from the old trait lines, the core NG trait lines, we're going to look at one specific trait in explosives, which is shrapnel. It says explosions have a chance to cripple and cause bleeding on hit. What does this trait mean by explosions? Well, if you look over certain skills, you will see most of the tooltips are normal, but then if we, for example, go into our grenade kit, you will see our grenade auto attack and also all of the other grenade skills say explosion on them. This means that these skills have a chance to cause bleeding on hit. And then also, as you can see on the tooltip here, it says number of grenades 3 on each of them. So this means we have 3 separate explosions that all have a chance to inflict bleeding. Next up, we have Serrated Steel and Incendiary Powder. Those just increase the duration of our 2 important conditions, which is burning and bleeding. So we want to cap out on those 2, and these traits help do that a lot easier. And then lastly, in the Mechanist trait line, I already talked about how our choice of traits here influence our F skills. But then there's also this trait here, Mech Frame Conductive Alloys. Usually our mech inherits 50% of all of our stats. However, this trait in particular makes it so that it inherits 100% of the important stats for the condition damage, namely condition damage and expertise. Or to be specific, he inherits our actual condition duration. And then lastly, we have the J drive trait that we already looked at earlier. That means we can just use our signets in the fight and we still keep the passives, which means we're going to want to use them a lot more. Next up, even though we only play with the single kit, I think it's still important to quickly touch on the kit swap mechanic, how it exactly works and when it will cancel a skill and when not. So as you can tell, once I go into Grenade Kit by pressing the hotkey, I will go into the Grenade Kit. You also saw there's a small cooldown on it, so if I enter it, I cannot immediately exit it by pressing this button again. However, what I can do is I can exit the kit by weapon swapping. So for example, I go in and I can weapon swap before the cooldown is off, and I can still leave the kit. However, this has one major downside, and that downside is that it cancels your skills if you press the weapon swap hotkey. So for example, I will show you now. I will go into my grenade kit, I will target my grenade 2 somewhere, and then I weapon swap out of the kit before the cast bar goes through, and you will see that my grenade 2 did not go off. On the other hand, if I press my grenade 2 and then I manually swap out of the kit by pressing the hotkey again, you see that my grenades will still go off. This means as long as we're long enough in the kit, we ideally always want to exit it manually by pressing the hotkey rather than using weapon swap, just so we don't cancel the last grenade skill we're doing. On the other side, entering a kit will not cancel the skill we're currently casting. So for example, the last skill we're usually going to cast before going into Grenade Kit is going to be our Pistol 2, which has like a long cast time here. So what we can do is we can use our Pistol 2, and then during the cast we can enter Grenade Kit, and you will see it's still fully casted the Pistol 2. However, one thing to be careful with here is if we cast Pistol 2, go into Grenade Kit and then press a grenade skill, that will take priority over the pistol. So you can see I still canceled my Pistol 2 by pressing one of the grenade auto attacks there. Now let's have a look at the basic loop of the rotation, and from there on out we can work off that, incorporate the signets and then also the mech command skills into it. So for our basic loop, it's going to basically look like we do a pistol rotation, which is 4-3-2. Then we do the first grenade loop, which involves our freeze grenade, poison grenade, and using the shrapnel grenade 2 times. Then we go back to our pistol loop with 4-3-2. And after that, we're going to do the second grenade loop, which is going to be basically the same. However, we will not have our freeze and poison grenade back up, because they have around twice the cooldown of our pistol skills. So the core idea on pistol is always using 4-3-2, and the core idea on Grenade Kit is to use Grenade 2 times and bridge the rest of the gap with either Grenade auto attacks or Grenade 4 and 5. The reason we use Grenade auto attacks instead of pistol auto attacks, like I mentioned earlier, is the shrapnel trait mostly, because this means our explosions also have a chance to inflict bleeding. So our grenade auto attack will also inflict bleeding even though it doesn't list it on the tooltip. So looking at the pistol rotation really quick, there's one thing to be wary of, which is our pistol 3 will cancel any other skill we're currently casting. So if I use 4 and then 3 too early, you will see this cancels my 4 skill. So what I would recommend you to do is just reset your cooldowns a few times and just practice using 4-3-2 in succession without too much delay, but also without cancelling your pistol 4. Next up, as I mentioned in the kit swapping part of the video, we always want to swap into our grenade kit while casting our pistol 2, because it has a long channel and it will not interrupt our channel. So we use pistol 2 at the end and then we go into the grenade kit. We just need to make sure that we don't press any grenade skills yet, as those will cancel the rest of our pistol 2. So the basic thing we're always going to do is, after we are done on our grenade kit, we're going to use the stoke grenade kit hotkey to go out of the kit so as to not to cancel any of our grenade skills that we're still casting. Then we're going to use 4-3-2 and enter back into our grenade kit. And that's what we're going to do on pistol. Now to quickly look at the grenade loops, one thing that needs to be clear is once we enter Grenade Kit, our 2 skill will actually be on cooldown usually. So what this means is, if I use my Grenade 2 here and then I do my pistol rotation, you will see that once I enter my kit again, I have around 2 seconds cooldown on my shrapnel grenade. So the first thing we're going to do when entering the Grenade Kit is we're going to fill the gap until we can use our Grenade 2 again. In the first loop, we can use our freeze grenade and poison grenade since they are both stronger than our auto attack. And then our grenade 2 is back up. So we're going to use 4-5-2, and then we're just going to auto attack until our grenade 2 is back up. After the grenade 2 is back up, we're going to use it. And that constitutes the end of the first grenade loop, where we just exit the grenade kit. And then we go for our pistol rotation again. And we can go back into the grenade kit. Now this next time we enter the grenade kit, we don't have our 4 and 5 back up, so what we will do instead is we're going to just fill the gap with grenade auto attacks until grenade 2 is back up, and then we do the same thing again. We just grenade auto attack a bunch until grenade 2 is back up, and after the second grenade 2, we're going to go back on our pistol weapon set. We're going to use our 4-3-2 and start the whole rotation all over again. Because at this point, after we use 4-3-2, we can go into our grenade kit again, and our 4 and 5 are back up, so we use 4-5-2 and so on. And this in general will just constitute our basic loop. It is very simple. and the only thing that we really need to do from here on out is the superconducting signet, and then just a bunch of skills that don't have a cast time for us, namely the overclock signet and the mech command skills. Now, before we move on to the rest of the rotation, one quick thing to note about: if you ever get lost in your rotation, let's say, for example, you use your pistol skills, you enter your grenade kit, and your 2 skill is up immediately. If you use your number 2 skill right away, because you messed up a bit earlier in the rotation, what you can do is, once we use the 2 skill and then we fill until 2 skill is back up, once you get out of your kit, your pistol skills will not be back off cooldown. I can quickly show you this once. I will use 4, 3, 2, and then I use my grenades. And you will see my pistol skills are still on like a 2-second cooldown. So if this is the case, if your grenade 2 is up right as you enter the kit, what you want to do is you want to use the the grenade auto attacks that you would use at the start to fill in the gap, and you use them at the end instead. So we're going to use 4, 3, 2, and in our grenade kit, we just fill until the grenades are back, and then afterwards we're going to do the 2 or 3 auto attacks, and you will see everything works again. And this can also be done with our 4 and 5 skills, so we use them now, and then we still need to fill with auto attacks 2 or 3 times, and we can just keep doing that. So if you ever get lost in rotation, you don't know what to do with your grenade 2, just make sure to cast it twice, and either at the start or at the end you want to cast a few extra attacks in order to reset your pistol skills. So now that we know about the basic loop and what to do if we get caught off guard a bit with our grenade rotation, we can now look to incorporate the rest of our skills. Specifically, the ones we still need to incorporate into the rotation are our superconducting signet, our overclock signet, and our mech command skills. Luckily for us, the only thing that matters out of these in terms of actual rotation and cast time is superconducting signet. As you can maybe see on the screen, this has a 3/4 second cast time. Anything else does not have a cast time. So you can see here the Jade Buster Cannon has a cast time, and then all of the mech command skills also say a cast time, however they are for the mech and not for us. I can quickly show you this. I can cast my grenade 2 while also pressing my mech F2 at the same time. So you saw, even though it lists a cast time, it did not cancel my grenade 2 because this cast time actually counts for our mech. So for the superconducting signet, if you look at the cooldown, it is 22 3/4 seconds. Once again, if we compare that to our pistol cooldowns, this means it is slightly less than 2 times our pistol cooldowns. That means, in theory, if we do our rotation perfectly and go to our pistol set every 12 seconds, then we can use this every other loop, and it will keep going forward in the loop a bit, and we can keep using it slightly early. Ideally, the first time we can use it in our opening is in between our pistol 3 and 2 skill, because if you look at the pistol skills, you will see that 4 and 3 have a 12-second cooldown, while the 2 skill will always be up once we get back to the set anyway, since it has a slightly lower cooldown. So let's quickly do this. We're going to do the opener same as before. We're going to use our grenade 2, swap to pistol, but then we're going to use the superconducting signet in between our 3 and 2 skill. So we're going to use 2, 4, 3, signet, 2, and then we do our grenade rotation again. And then we're gonna keep doing the basic loop for a bit, so you can see when our signet comes back up again. And you will see that now it's going to be up slightly earlier. It's going to be up at the end of our grenade loop here, and we can use it before going to our pistol set. And then we just continue exactly like that. We continue our loop regularly, and after every other pistol loop, basically we can cast a superconducting signet, and we can use it earlier and earlier. So while we casted the first one while on the pistol set, we casted the second one slightly before going to the pistol set, and then basically over time it's going to come earlier and earlier into our grenade loop. So now that the superconducting signet is taken care of, we just need to look at our mech skills. So basically the TLDR of these is use all of them off cooldown whenever you can. And like I said, they don't interrupt any of your other casts. So what you want to do is, first of all, at the beginning of the fight, we're going to start with our F2 while we are casting our grenade 2. While we are casting our pistol skills, as soon as our mech finished the F2 cast, we can use F1. Then we're going to use F3, and after that we're going to use overclock signet, and then we're just going to use all of them whenever they become back available. I'm going to show you this once quickly here. So we're just going to do the exact same rotation as before, but we also press our mech skills now. So we're using our F2, we're using F1, we're using F3, and then we're using the overclock signet. So now you see I did the exact same opener. However, this time we also used all of our mech skills. And then once they come back off cooldown, we can use them again. So now you see my F1 came back off cooldown, so I can use it. Then my F2 is going to come off cooldown next, and then I can use that. And that will be it for the entire rotation. So we still execute the same basic loop, but we just press our F skills in between, since they have no cast time for us, and the cast time is just for the mech, the one that is on the actual skill display here. Now lastly, I'm gonna let a video of myself doing the rotation play. Just keep in mind that this rotation is in no way perfect. There's still some mistakes in there, things that can be improved. However, I think it shows the basic rotation well enough. Keep in mind that if you're doing the rotation on the golem, you're gonna get a number that is about 4k lower than what you would actually do in a real fight due to the shift signet giving boons to your mech. So if you want to compare what you're doing on Mechanist versus what you can do on other classes, you might want to add approximately 4k to the number you're getting on the golem here.
Empty hearts and neon lights, they're playing with my mind. Gotta get out of here tonight. Oh, I wanna run off and fly. And I'll tell myself it's fine to be alone, just to find somewhere that finally feels like home. Oh, oh, oh. I hate all this overthinking. Oh, 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 oh. The more I swim, the more I'm sinking. Take me to a world of silver. No more heartbreaks, tears, painkillers. Take me somewhere unfamiliar. Bring me back to where we started out. Get me out of now. To where we started out. Get me out of now. To where we started out. La 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 la, oh oh. Get me out of broken hearts and starting fights, turning truth to lies. Gotta get up, stop wasting time. Yeah, I wanna run